And welcome everyone live here to T-Mobile Arena as we bring you in with the tones of the Scorpions there. That's an homage to my buddy Brian Slagle, who was here the other day with us on the semifinal pregame show, and one of the kings, if you will, of hard rock metal. He owns Metal Blade Records, lives here in Vegas, and opportunity for me to talk music, and he wants to talk hockey, but super guy. And his podcast is about the 100 most essential songs in heavy metal history, and the Scorpions was the last one, and so there you go. That's the convoluted reason why I was playing that. But if anyone, by the way, wants to hear good Scorpions, not that the 80s hits were not great, but the 70s Scorpions, which I've only discovered later in life, you don't know what you're missing. So I would highly recommend doing that. There you go. Now let's talk hockey. All right. We are here, again, live, T-Mobile Arena. I'm Adam Wooden, College Hockey News pregame show. I don't even know what year we're on now doing these pregame shows live from the concourse and the Frozen Four, whatever arena we're in. Leading up to the drop of the puck at 2:30 Pacific time, 5:30 Eastern time, Denver and Wisconsin, the two teams that will go at it. Before we get to that, we have a cast of thousands once again to talk about the game. Just want to talk about some of the things that are going on. Check out our article on collegehockeynews.com for the state of the game that they have a sort of press conference every year on the Friday between the semis and the finals where dignitaries from college hockey, the committee chair, conference commissioners, College Hockey Inc., president, and various people, members of the committee and whatnot. Luke Strand was there from Minnesota State. Trevor Large from Canisius, talking about the different issues going on in the game, of course, these days. And, there's always hot-button topics, Some of them are more important than others. And, the regional format is always something that's been talked about for 30 years. How to improve the NCAA tournament, so on and so forth, site selections, where the Frozen Four is going to be. Everyone's always interested in those kind of things. But, of course, nowadays money has become one of the biggest factors. And we've had our special report. We're 2 parts into a 3-part series, and the third part will run in a couple weeks. But, again, check that out on collegehockeynews.com. But we've done part 1 and part 2 on the current landscape and all the transferring and what's going on, and then, of course, the money, the NIL. And, it's always interesting to hear the coaches and players downplay the importance of the money. And I don't know if they're even being insincere, because from their perspective, they believe it. But I got to admit, I'm getting a little tired of always hearing about it, because I think the teams that have the money are the ones that are downplaying it. And meanwhile, if it wasn't that important, every school in the country wouldn't right now be trying to desperately raise funds to pay players. I mean, it's just a fact of life. And, I'm just going to get on the soapbox a little bit here for a minute before we get back to things, because, again, I think the players are sincere in that no one's going to say, "Oh, I did it, only for the money." And I mean, it was the right fit too, right? And coaches are going to say, we're not going to go into a bidding war for a player and so on and so forth. We're gonna get a guy who fits the program, fits the system, and that is sincerely extremely important. I mean, you don't want to have selfish players. You don't want to have players who are not team first. I mean, that could quickly ruin a locker room. And I think the teams that are successful not just because of the money, but because of how they've constructed their roster, getting the right people. But it's really naive to think that it doesn't matter at all, because, I mean, if that were the case, look over the years. I mean, why are non-scholarship schools at a disadvantage? I mean, why are the Ivy Leagues, why do they have a harder time recruiting players? It's not just facilities, it's not just coaches, that are different. It's the money's a factor. I mean, to say it's not is kind of absurd. Why were Atlantic hockey schools going from 12 scholarships to 18 if that wasn't, that's money. I mean, scholarship is money to a player. and the Alston money that came in, where you can give $6,000 to a player as a stipend starting a few years ago, even before NIL. Why did all the schools do that? Because they needed to attract players and say, we're going to take care of you. So again, as all of these things have come into place, and now you have revenue share where, certain schools have a decent pot to play with and other schools don't. You're seeing the amount of schools that can go after the higher-end players and all down the line dwindle, So when you've got, the same 4 schools chasing the same first-rounders now, they're going to say, okay, yeah, the money didn't matter. If Team X if Team Blue Blood X offers $100,000 and Team Blue Blood Y offers $25,000, and the player might say, well, no, I didn't go for the highest, and we didn't pay the player. The coach will say we didn't pay we weren't the highest bidder. Yeah, okay, but it was still $25,000, right? I mean, that's like the difference between a scholarship and not at some places, or at least part of it these days. I mean, although they're worth a lot more than that these days, but I mean, it's just like I said. The pool has dwindled as far as who is in that playground. I mean, let's just look at the data over the years, like who had first-round picks on their roster or second-round picks, let's just say. I mean, Harvard first-round picks. Cornell has had a first-round pick in the past. New Hampshire, Maine. I mean, these schools have had them, and so yes, did Michigan have more? Did some of those schools attract more, Minnesota and whatnot? Yeah, of course. But it's the gap that is widened, and to say otherwise is silly. So anyway, that's my soapbox right now. Thank you very much for listening. The other issue we're going to get into here before getting to our guests, and Andrew Mahoney of the Boston Globe is coming up here in just a second, is the coaching openings that are available right now in college hockey. One of them is St. Cloud State. We wrote a story last week about how Nick Oliver, current assistant coach for Wisconsin, is the front runner, and not just the front runner, but likely to be named. But that has not happened yet. Now, I think it's pretty obvious, at least on the surface, that the reason why they haven't announced the new head coach yet at St. Cloud is because Nick Oliver is currently coaching Wisconsin. I mean, it's kind of the worst-kept secret at this point. So Wisconsin just keeps going. I mean, people might have expected them to be out of this tournament by now, and this problem would have been solved. But, today is the last game it could be, and Wisconsin is here, and that's it. And the transfer portal opens on Monday. So I would imagine Nick Oliver is going to be named head coach at St. Cloud one way or the other officially tomorrow or Monday. And, we'll see how that goes exactly. But you could expect that. And, he probably knows already. And, the assistant coaches that are still there at St. Cloud are probably preparing for the transfer portal just fine. Now, one of the other openings is Yale. And, again, that, teams are desperate to have coaches in place by the start of the transfer portal opening, which is, again, is Monday in this case now. And Yale does not have anyone in place yet at this time. We thought maybe someone would be named Friday, but that hasn't happened yet. From what I hear, Jeff Hamilton, former player, is the front runner for that job. But again, there could be other dark horse candidates in there, and that's as much as I know. And then last but not least, Matt Shasby, for Alaska Anchorage stepped down, and that's just an unfortunate situation. Obviously it's very difficult at Anchorage. Again, just look at what we were just talking about. With all the money, and of course, Anchorage is not in the league, and Fairbanks has been managed to, do a better job staying afloat than Anchorage has. Anchorage did not have a great season this past season. I think, understandably, Matt Shasby's like, you know what? I can do something else right now. It's just a tough job, and it's really hard. So, they're all their players are basically in the transfer portal right now. So just like Mercyhurst, because they dropped the program. And by the way, speaking of which, Rick Gotkin, great interview on Thursday with him. Again, go back and check out the archives here to hear Rick Gotkin again. All right, let's. That's what I know. Let's get to our first guest. We'll bring him in, and we'll get him a sit up here in just a second. Let's make sure these microphones are working. And we still don't know. We still don't know, or do we, exactly why the guy from the Boston Globe, Andrew Mahoney, is here when none of the teams are here. So,
booked it early. Booked the flight early, and as I explained, my bosses told me to do it, and I did tell them, I'm like, look, this isn't basketball, it's hockey. There's only 16 teams to get in, and so all they need to do is win 2 games, and they're in the Frozen Four, and then none of them won a game.
Right.
So, but yeah, I'm here, and I'm finding different angles. I had nice conversation with Will Zellers, a Bruins prospect.
North Dakota forward.
Yep, and then another North Dakota forward, Tyler Young, son of Scott Young, who was a U.S. Hockey Hall of Famer, long-time NHL career. And he transferred over from Merrimack. And then today, in a few hours, if you hop on BostonGlobe.com, you will see my notebook lead on Boston Buckberger, defenseman.
You finally tracked him down.
I tracked him down, and I got the details on why his first name is Boston, and so that's what my week has been like. So.
You got to dig up. Honestly, I always say over the years, some of my favorite stories are just these little things that seem to mean nothing, and then you just make them into some interesting little, that's one sentence somebody says, and you blow it out.
It's wild. I've enjoyed this because I've been able to go into the locker rooms during the press conferences. Usually I'm hanging out in the press conferences.
Yeah, because you're not worried about who won the game or whatever.
Yeah, and then I can go back. Of course, they record all the press conferences, so then I can go and backtrack. But while they're going on, I've been going into the locker rooms and talking to guys, and it's been kind of nice, actually.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this was a down year for Hockey East, obviously. Everybody knows that. I don't know if it's – I mean, look, things have ebbed and flowed over the years, Providence won a championship in 2015. BU was good for a while, BC. So, it tends to ebb and flow, and UMass. But do we have any fear that it's like a more permanent thing?
Possibly. I'm not ready to panic yet just because we had this conversation 4 years ago when, ironically, the Frozen Four was in Boston, and we had another all-Western Frozen Four. And then the next year, you had Cutter Gauthier enrolls at BC, Lane Hudson's at BU, and that rejuvenated both of them. I don't know what's on the horizon for those schools. I'm not going to sit here and say that. Yeah. So, but I think this, due to the evolving landscape with NIL and everything else, I don't know. I mean, I think those guys must be a little concerned. Yeah. I would think so.
I've been saying it's just the pool of teams that are on the level of the Big Ten schools is like dwindling. I was just saying my soapbox here. Like for example, New Hampshire used to be a powerhouse, and they used to get an occasion. Not that they would get a lot of first rounders or second rounders, but they would get some here and there. And right now, they have no money.
Exactly.
And, they're doing the best they can, but you have to have something to play in that pool.
And they're in that situation now where if someone does come through and starts looking pretty good, guess what? They're in the portal, and you see Ryan Comney now skating for BC. After 2 solid years at UNH. They've had guys that they were very close to landing, and then someone else swoops in and gets them. And so, I mean, when you talk about the dwindling numbers, I mean, you would certainly put UNH there. Maine had a nice bounce back.
I saw they just got another donation of $1 million or something from somebody. Now, of course, these days that might not last more than a few years, but
doesn't feel like it. No, it really doesn't. It's crazy. Yeah. And of course, you look at the situation with Northeastern now without a home arena for the next 2 years. It's.
And they don't have football, right? So
they don't have football. BU does not have football.
So that is a school that you think may be able to, once they get their arena settled, may be able to do something.
Especially in this day and age with the transfer portal. It's not like, you think back, I mean, I'm jumping sports on you, but like SMU football, when they got handed the death penalty, that program never recovered. Right. I think Northeastern is going to be able to bounce back, once the building's up and with the transfer portal, and I think they'll be able to get back in the mix.
But Boston University is an interesting case because, with Jay Pandolfo going there, they were getting the pick of the litter as far as high-end recruits are concerned, right there with BC, Michigan, etc. And then, the money comes in and they're not quite able to do some of those things, but then also the guys they did have this year, it just kind of backfired. Like, it was working for a while with the high, but this year's, whatever reason, the mix did not work this year. So
when he first came in, when JP Andolfo first came in, and they had some veterans still on the team. A lot of those guys came back after Albie O'Connor's final season. And they talked to a man about how they bought, how Jay held them accountable, which I found fascinating because in this day and age, if coach is a little too rough, they're in the portal, they're turning pro. I think Jack Parker always jokes if he was coaching today, by the end of the season, he wouldn't have any players left in his dressing room.
That's probably true.
And so I asked Jay about that. I said, all your players are talking about how you hold them accountable, and he said, that they're just buying in. These kids are buying in. I don't think these kids were buying
for whatever
in
reason.
For whatever reason, it was weird. And I think the Cole Hudson and Cole Eisman both. Yeah. I think certainly they bought in and they were giving their all, but there just wasn't something right. And then both of them got hurt. They both came back, but they never seemed to be the players that they were last year.
It's like Cole missed his defense partner, I think. I don't know. He didn't look great on defense, and he could get away with it last year. And then Cole Eiserman, I don't know. Like, I'm an Islander fan, so everyone, my Islander fan friends are, is he going to be good? First-round pick of the Islanders. I'm like, to me, he's a little limited in what he can do. He's a great shooter. I don't know if that was just the injuries, but anyway, he's gone now, so it doesn't matter.
I mean, I think is he going to be good? My answer would probably be not yet. I still think he could be good,
hope.
but I don't think I'm not sure how the transition to the NHL is if it's going to be next year or not. I'm not sure about that.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, what have you? Where are you ranking? How many Frozen Fours have you been at, by the way?
Honestly, not a ton. Maybe 6 or 7. I guess. Yeah,
because
I can't believe I just said 6 or 7. Sorry about that.
No, please.
That was not intentional.
As long as my 9-year-old daughter's not listening, you're all right. But but I was just curious where this ranked for you. I mean, Las Vegas is easy to get distracted doing other things, but we got to remember why we're here, I guess.
I mean, it's fun, right? But then, there's something also to be said about being in a city where you're the only game in town. St. Paul 2 years ago. That was ridiculous. It was so much fun. But this is fun in a very different way here. It's almost like we're anonymous, just kind of scrolling through. If you have your badge on, your credential, walking through, and people, it's just kind of looking like, what's that? And that's college hockey? Oh, okay, that's pretty cool. The ticket's still available. It's wild. But I think you talk to the players and the coaches. They all mention it at the press conference. They're really enjoying themselves. They've managed to stay insulated from everything, from all the distractions, and we haven't heard of anyone getting in trouble. So I think it's pretty cool. I think most people are going to want to have it back here down the road for sure.
It's fine with me. I love the glitz and the glamour, for what it is. Yep. I mean, I don't know if I could live in Vegas, but a lot of people do these days, but I love visiting here. I got my tickets for the Sphere Metallica in November.
Nice.
They cost me a few pennies. Have you been to the Sphere at all?
I did. I went to see The Wizard of Oz. There weren't a whole lot of options, so I went and saw. And I enjoyed it, though. I think it was cool. And then last night, I went and saw at the Bellagio. That's a Cirque du Soleil show that takes place in the water. And highly recommend that if any of your listeners are thinking of coming to Vegas. It's in the water, so it's never going to travel. So the only way you're ever going to be able to see it is if you come out here. So I would recommend that for sure.
Vegas is interesting. First time I was ever in Vegas was 1998. And, I'm sure it had changed a lot from the 50s to,
Of course, yeah.
But, you no longer had, like, Bugsy Siegel out here and stuff like that. But from 98 to, last few years, I've been a bunch of times because the NHL draft was here a couple of years ago. It's changed a lot again because back then you could get a lot of stuff for free, like parking.
Yep.
And they just wanted you to gamble. And now it's almost like Disneyland. Like, families come, and so they charge, up to wazoo for everything.
Yeah, the only other time I was here was 2005, and similarly, I was looking for a lot of deals, and I found a lot of deals. Yeah. And one deal was, we had this combo package, and part of it was a gondola ride at the Venetian.
Oh, yeah.
And for the whole thing, it was $39. I walked by it the other day, and it was $39 just to ride on a gondola for one person. So, I mean, you expect a little bit of inflation, but it's they're looking to cash in. No more free parking. None of that.
Well, That said, I would still be more than happy to have this be in the rotation. That's always a topic of conversation. I said probably the most, on Twitter, X, whatever, you can see how many people have seen your tweet. And I think had to be the most ever for me. I don't know. It was like 300,000 people saw my tweet the other day where I said we should just rotate between Boston, St. Paul, Vegas, and Tampa. And most people were like, sure. Some people are, what about Buffalo? I'm like, Buffalo? I mean, I have nothing against Buffalo, honestly. It does have, a cool down town and whatnot. But, I mean, who wants to 30 degrees and,
Well, I mean, my only frame of reference was 2019, where they did not do a good job promoting that, and it was, and you had Cale Makar out there.
I know,
and nobody was good. I shouldn't say nobody, but it was.
No, it was like 13,000 in the fun. Yeah, that was very poorly attended for whatever reason. The one in 2003 they had there was sold out. I remember. Okay. I don't know why 19 did not, but it's like look, everyone's got their pet city, and I would love it to be in Nashville. Because, I just love Nashville.
Yeah.
My son lives there. But they don't want it. So I've sort of gotten off that high horse at this point. But anyway, any thoughts? What are you showing me? Oh, okay. Thank you. Anthony, you can speak up.
Nice job, Anthony.
TJ Hughes to Colorado. So there you go. Free agent, Hobie finalist. So I don't know. I don't know if I should. Just like I said, we're shooting the breeze. But if you see enough around the country to have an opinion on what happened with the Hobie and everything else. I mean, they were all Western guys, so I don't know how often you see them.
I mean, I felt accurate. You know, I mean, this was, we already talked about it was a down year for Hockey East. And, I thought Hagen's had a nice push at the end of the year to get in the top 10, but that was about where he deserved. There wasn't anyone. I mean, I love Cole Hudson watching him play, but he didn't have a strong year. I think he's a fantastic player. He's going to have a great NHL career. He wasn't a top 3 finalist. The only one that maybe you would have considered, but they only put Augustine in the top 10 was, Robel just had a ridiculous second half. I mean, he was on fire.
Yeah, we had him as our first team because, I think Augustine's good, but he's not like unbelievable, like I've seen. But I saw Robel be pretty unbelievable down the stretch. Now, his first half was a little up and down. I think Greg Carvel even said something like he wasn't really, attention to detail or practice habits or something. I don't know if you remember that quote.
He did, and then he got injured, and then they were trying to get him back in the swing of things before the break. That was when they lost to Army. And talk about losses you look back on. That is why you were sitting home in March. That one didn't help. But then when he came back from that break, he showed Carvel something during the practices during the winter break. He came back in January and he was just on fire.
So what about we talked about BU? What about BC? Going forward, it's almost like they're starting over again. But I'm sure I don't know who they got coming in. I'm sure it's somebody good. So.
Yeah, I don't know either, honestly. I mean, I like that Letourneau's going to be back. As far as I know, Economy will be back for his senior season. They do have a nice group of young players coming. Well, they're all young players to us. But Stiga will be back. I got to think Letourneau, there'll be some Hobie hype just the way he finished this season. And with all the guys who have moved on out of the college game, he'll be a junior. I mean, I'm not anticipating him making the same leap that he made from freshman to sophomore. From sophomore, if he does make that leap, then we're looking at a 40-goal season. I don't think that's going to happen. But I'm anxious to see. And now, they also lost, Minetti and Fortescue, so we'll see how that D-core looks, too.
I haven't heard about, usually, I don't know, I don't follow recruiting that closely, but usually I've heard, they're getting this guy from the U18 team. That guy, I haven't heard that this year, so I don't know.
I haven't heard yet, but a lot of times, you hear it in May when the U.S. is in that, not World Juniors, but the under-18 tournament. Then that's when you said, oh, this kid's going here, this kid's going here, So... Yeah, well, I'll have a better. I guess I should have a better handle on these things, but I focus more on the college thing.
No, me too. I just when they get there, then I judge them.
Exactly.
But last but not least, I don't know if you have any thoughts on Hockey East ever expanding again, because I know that there's schools out there like Sacred Heart and stuff that are just kind of angling for that in the future. But I wonder if really that's even realistic. Quinnipiac's always one people bring up to me, right? I think a lot of the ECAC teams would love to kick them out and send them to Hockey East. But
my understanding is that Quinnipiac, the school, not the athletic department, really enjoys being in the ECAC. They like being associated with those Ivy League schools.
Right.
So I don't think you'll see Quinnipiac. Holy Cross always seemed like one. But again, they seem to like being in the Patriot League, and they don't have the on-campus facilities.
Right.
They always have the option of playing in the DCU Center in Worcester, but that rink is not a hockey's. Sacred Heart is the one that I've always kind of thought. I have not been to that rink yet. I've heard nothing but great things about their new rink. It just seems to make sense that you would want a 12th team. I know they want to keep it regional. They learned from the whole Notre Dame experience. They don't want to go outside New England again. And that's one of the attractions of the league, both covering it, coaching in it, playing in it. It's a bus league, except for when you get to the non-conference games. You're not getting on a plane. Most of the time you're going home and sleeping in your own bed after the game. And that's a draw for some of these coaches, and certainly for a media person like me.
A long, dark, snowy bus ride to Orono, but still a bus ride.
True. And in that case, you do stay over. But you also played them 2 nights in a row. Orono and, of course, Vermont, too.
Right.
But you saw that, not that hopefully we ever face that situation again, but you saw that during the pandemic where they were able to, they didn't have to, go to a location and play in a bubble. They considered themselves in their own bubble.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
well, thank you, sir. Like I said, we're just shooting the breeze over here, so I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
And we got the Eastern guy to talk that, and now we got to get back to the Western teams who are actually in this Frozen Four. So I appreciate it, as always. Andrew Mahoney, the Boston Globe, coming on with us. And we got, again, the cast of thousands coming up still. Let's see who we got next here. Looks like, our good friend Bernie Corbell. We'll get another BU guy in here, but he's been around a while. He's always at the Frozen Four, knows everything. And Neil Koepke, longtime scribe for the Lansing State Journal, Michigan State newspaper reporter, but he goes back a ways, CCHA, Big Ten, so he knows the drill. So we'll bring them both in, a couple old timers here to chit chat. Let's get them set up over here. But there should be. I'm looking forward to Denver and Wisconsin, just because, it is a interesting matchup. Obviously, I think a lot of people are wondering about, the Big Ten, and they've won everything here this winter. As far as the men's basketball, women's ice hockey. So, some people are like, well, we don't want the Big Ten. You talked to the players yesterday; they didn't really care about Big Ten as much as I'm just Wisconsin and I'm just Denver. So that kind of stuff is kind of lost on those guys, probably rightfully so. But for some fans, it means a lot. So we bring in Neil Koepke and Bernie Corbett, two old timers.
Oh, I got some old stories for you, too.
Very old.
You don't mind.
I'm sure you do.
Get off my lawn. Adam, this is amazing, though. This is a lot later than we normally are paired with each other.
Yeah.
But it would have been a hell of a lot earlier if we paired with each other, which
Bernie.
is why we didn't do it live today for the fans of hockey on campus.
Everyone else that goes to the Frozen Four goes out Friday night because they know that the whole next day, they have till 7 o'clock.
Right,
or
exactly.
Yeah. And, this year the game's at 2:30, and Bernie, we do the shows, but he's the only one who makes me get up. Normally Saturday mornings to do the live show on NHL Network Radio.
Very good.
So I don't get to have my sleep. But this
Sounds
year,
like Joe Kincannon.
Yeah, well, this year, though, it's going to be 5 in the morning. I'm like, I'm not doing that.
No,
I'm not doing that. So we got to think of another way. So we pre-recorded.
We
Meanwhile,
did.
I still had to get up early because this game is starting at 2:30.
Yeah,
Pacific
I know.
time,
That part of it was unavoidable.
When's the last time, Neil? There's a game in the afternoon. I guess, if you're back east here, it's 5:30.
In 1990 when Wisconsin won against, I think, Colgate, that was an afternoon game in Detroit.
Was it?
Because remember, right after that, they awarded
Slightly before my time.
They rewarded the Hobie right after that with Kip Miller winning it after Michigan State got upset the previous weekend by BU Terriers.
That's right.
Best
weekends of my life.
Best of 3 series back in the old days when they had the regional best of 3. It was wonderful.
Yeah.
And it was...
Well, and I was going to say, you just triggered me now because you mentioned Wisconsin Colgate because, you guys are from blue blood areas, but I'm a middle New York guy. And
Sure.
Are we ever going to see Colgate in a Frozen Four
I
ever
know,
again?
I know, exactly.
It's only been 36 years for them as it was, but
unless they come up with some rules to regulate this
I was
system.
going to say, does any of this stuff bother you guys as the old timers,
yeah.
or do we just kind of?
But for a while there, for a while there, when Union was winning, Yale was winning, Providence and teams like Blue Bloods, like Michigan, were going like Minnesota. Why can't we win? Why can't we win? Why are these other teams winning? So it looked like you can actually do it. Ferris State has Ferris State been in
they got to the final
twice?
against BC. Down in
2012
in Tampa.
And that was one of the great stories.
Yeah. I know they were in a Frozen Four.
It was 12,
I don't think they. But they weren't in the final twice, right? Just that was the only year.
I think they were just once, But it won the CCHA twice over about a 7-year period. So it looked like it was changing, and then all of a sudden they went back. But now with the way things are with NIL and money for the big schools, it's going to be tough. Remember, Lake Superior won 3 national titles.
I try to remind everybody of these things, because David Carl's always like, well, look at all the, we've had so many different champions, and, when he talks about the regionals, teams being at home.
Sure, exactly.
Like, he throws out the stat that there would have been 30 different home teams over the last. I'm like, well, yeah, but it's like I feel like that era ended about last year. Like anything that happened before 2024, you could just throw out the window.
Yeah, exactly.
Cut the real estate dramatically.
Yeah. So anyway, but let's not yell at the clouds and say some good things here.
1995 was a high noon start in Providence when the Terriers beat.
Was it really?
The Black Bears.
A high noon?
Why?
Yes. It was just all about TV purposes that they played at noon, which was way too early for me, believe me, that weekend.
And me.
Someone told me that the 97 final was also.
That was at noontime, too.
Was it at noon?
Yes.
Wow.
In Milwaukee.
I remember that as noon.
In Milwaukee,
Really? So they were playing. It was all about TV at that point, I think, while they were playing at noon.
And that was my first one, 97, which I remember very well. We've talked about that.
I remember the 2-0 lead. I don't remember anything after that.
Well, he remembers the final. I remember the first game
because
Michigan was supposed to win that easily, and BU put on a clinic defending Brendan Morrison, keeping that offense away. And they were so exhausted, right?
The hits just kept on coming. The montage of hits and Michigan maize and blue bodies flying is still a thing of beauty to me today. There goes Botterill. There goes Morrison.
I bring this up all the time. It's like one of the greatest things I've ever seen, just as a neutral observer. And I had to go back and find the game on YouTube recently. It was like, am I remembering this wrong? Because I just remember, like you just said, bodies flying everywhere.
They set the tone physically in that game.
When Chris Jury laid out Brendan Morrison in center ice, I thought this is what we're going.
I know exactly. Crazy.
That was some serious hockey in that day.
And North Dakota ended up winning.
I know, right? Matt Henderson of all.
Matt Henderson.
Played one career NHL game, I believe.
Oh, yeah.
Was the MOP of that tournament. But I've probably asked you this before, but what is your fond... I mean, I know as a Michigan State reporter for a long time, obviously 07 with Rick Comley coming back and winning that championship. But you go back, what's the 86, the first Michigan State championship you saw?
Yeah, in '86, though, I was actually working for the Ann Arbor News.
Oh, right.
I was there.
That's right, you were on the other side.
I forgot about that,
And yet I was there in '95 just covering as a fan and a little bit when Michigan State got beat by Chris Terreri. And 85. The dream team was like the team that everybody goes back and says, that's the worst loss ever. You go back 76, they lost to Minnesota in 3 overtimes at Munn when Minnesota went to the Frozen and won the Final Four. But that was not as bad as the Dream Team because about 10,000 people had bought tickets for Detroit, and it was supposed to be RPI and Michigan State. And Tom Manassas and Kelly Miller and you name it, Craig Simpson were on that team. Terreri was great. But my first one with Michigan State would have been the next year when I moved from Ann Arbor to East Lansing.
It was all you.
And then it was North Dakota, Dakota, and Michigan State.
Yeah.
And North Dakota got a jump on a 4-2 lead, and it was just that was the Hercus Circus.
Yes, exactly. But I was going to say, when I first started covering like early 90s essentially, and like I said, my first Frozen Four was 97. So, I started covering it, for many years. I look at the Hobie list and I don't really think twice of it. I'm like, this is the history and the Fusco brothers and all that. But then recently I was sitting there going, Mike Donnelly scored 59 goals in 1986. How did he not win the Hobie? Yeah. Like, am I missing something?
Talking about that, last night.
You were there then. What
subject
happened
came
with
up.
that? I mean, no offense to Scott Fusco, but what in the world was that?
Right. Yep.
Well, we were discussing that last night with Bernie.
Yes.
At a watering hole in the local
Yes.
community here, and
Fine place.
Michigan State fans will still will say, "How did that happen?"
What's wrong with this picture?
59
Bill
goals.
Cleary have a lot of pull back then or
He
something?
did, as a matter of fact. He did. He still does now, and he's 90, as a matter of fact. What happened today?
That's all I could think of.
Conspiracy theories say that there was one voter that went, Fusco 1, somebody 2, and Donnelly 3,
Yeah.
and that sort of
Well,
like
Brett Hull had 52 goals that year.
skewer the.
That's right.
Yeah, that's right. Skewer the system. And I remember went to the Hobie Baker Ward, and we all thought that Donnelly was going to win it with 59 goals, and we were just flabbergasted. Like, are you kidding? And Spartan fans to this day, it's like somebody stuck a needle in them, and it's like, how can that happen? Even Dan Cole, when we were in Cornell a couple years ago, and Fusco's daughter was on the ice playing for Cornell, I think.
Yeah.
And basically, Dan says, let's go out and jack her for what her father
That's why
got
you
one
said
that
you're going to go
award.
after him, right? Yeah.
I mean, you knew Billy. You still talk to Billy.
I interviewed him recently when the closing of Matthews, Boston
That had
/
to
Matthews
have
Arena.
had something to do with it. I don't
Well,
know.
Billy
not that he intentionally.
But Billy was very influential. He was on the rules committee. I mean, he was very, very active, very influential statesman.
Again, no offense to the
college
Fuscos. But the other thing, the reason why I came up last night, though, too, is because, Duluth has won 7. And, they had the 84 and 85 back-to-back. And I was like, well, we can't give it to Brett Hull. Yeah, they can't have 3 in a row.
3 in a row.
Yeah.
So,
good point.
him,
but Donnelly had 59. Hull had 52, I think it was. So.
I once saw Donnelly score 5 goals in one game that year against Ohio State. 5, yeah.
I don't know. Well, defend the Fusco brothers because they were good players.
Oh, they were really good players. They were really good players.
Their son is on Dartmouth this year. I think.
There's a Fusco on Dartmouth,
Yeah. So there you go. We'll see if he can win the Hobie. Be the first fathers. I keep telling Mark Diver to come on with us here. He's like a persona non grata.
He can't get out of the transfer portal.
Poor
Get
Mark
that
Diver,
guy out of the portal, exactly.
We got some old scribes here, and Mark, who's been around.
I know it.
He couldn't get a credential to this thing. I'm like,
he couldn't?
I don't know what happened there. I gotta talk to somebody about that.
You do, yeah, that's right.
Yell about that.
And yet Max Pacioretty is in the press box with his 2 kids. So,
is that right?
Yeah, he was there. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But what was I going to say? You've been to enough of these. I mean, how is Vegas stacking up as a Frozen 4 location?
We talked about this last night also. Doesn't have the central focal point type of thing, gathering point.
Hotels,
I think that's
bars,
a little bit of
where everybody
it's a little
goes.
bit of a struggle socially. You know?
Yeah.
But as far as the building and everything, I think people are all pleased. I know the coaches have been
It's
saying
different,
the praises
but
of it.
yeah,
You know?
I think it's fun.
I don't know. I like the glitz of Vegas. I think it's great for what it is. Like if you know going in, it's like a circus and it's Disneyland.
I agree.
And you just kind of are amused by it all.
Right.
But they do nickel and dime you around here a little bit, but that's okay. But I suggested, I said the most ever read tweet I ever had was the other day when I suggested we should just do Boston, St. Paul, Tampa, and Vegas.
Really?
Rotate them around.
And
Red
they got
tweet
angry
as
on
the
that
Red
one?
Berenson?
No. I said retweet.
Oh,
The most read.
Oh,
REAT.
Red. Okay, I was thinking.
okay.
You talked to
He's got Red Berenson
How
on
did-
his mind over
How
here.
did people feel about that?
Most people agreed.
Okay,
Most
you
people
just have
agreed.
What was your
Four-man
4-4
rotation.
St. Paul,
Yeah.
Yep.
Boston, Tampa, and Vegas. But left out Detroit, so a lot of people got upset at me.
Yeah,
but
hockey.
Detroit has not.
The real hockey town USA.
Do you know
is
that
Melrose,
Detroit
Mass.
doesn't even bid
So-
anymore because
they don't bid anymore.
No,
right?
because they
Melrose,
when it was
Mass is
there
hockey
in
town USA.
2020 COVID, they basically were the ticket sales weren't good, and so when
They were almost happy it was
COVID
canceled.
canceled it, then the NCAA said we want to give you one back, and they said no, that's okay.
Really?
So I want the local writers
Never got
in
to see that
Detroit
building?
to do an in-depth story with the Illiches and why they're not bidding on it, because a lot of people think the NCAA is being bad
right.
to Detroit.
Oh, I know. I correct people all the time. I know that the reason is because they're not bidding. I didn't know why.
Right, yeah, and that's what I'm hearing. But I want to find it from them. And so Connor Irgood, who just started
Yes.
at the Detroit News,
Yes.
used to be
Young whippersnapper up and coming.
He's covering all Michigan State sports. And I said, when the summertime comes, that's a good story you got to track down.
Yeah.
And he would do it, and he's the one that sort of track down the Mel Pearson story
Yes,
when he
I
was
know.
working for the
I
Michigan
know.
Daily, and remember that. So
I do.
he's the go-getter, and he'd be the one to find out and get the Illagers to put on the record why Detroit doesn't get it. So Detroit fans and everybody doesn't say, "Oh, Detroit's
know.
being
Please
harassed
I'm
by."
curious
clarify
why the sales weren't good. Like,
Yeah.
what's up with that?
And the history shows that people come from all over the place.
Oh, God, yeah.
And it's not
Yeah.
just the teams that are there. It's
No,
like it's a
far
reunion
beyond.
of college hockey fans.
Yeah. Do you have a wish list? Do you have a number one wish list
for a
for
venue,
our Frozen Four that we haven't had yet?
for a place to have it. Well, you know,
I
you
can't
gotta
be in
make a
Boston
strong.
every year, Bernie.
No, God, no. I know. Get off my lawn, and I'll see you on the orange line. I think Nashville would have some appeal. Now
That's the number one, I think.
Now that I spent
That's the
some
number
time,
one
I
for all
was there
fans.
Pearl Jam last year, and it is a lot of fun. There's a lot to do.
I love Nashville. My son lives in Nashville. I've lobbied for Nashville many times, but I was told I have to tell fans, just like I have to tell them about Detroit over and over, that Nashville doesn't want it either because
They got so many other events
They have so many
coming
other
in.
events, and they can't keep the Preds out for that long.
I know, exactly.
So that's the biggest issue there, and I think I'm hearing for everyone listening out there. It's funny how hockey fans really are into this. Like, they always want to know.
Sure.
I don't know if are basketball fans the same way, like wanting to.
Do they say when's the next 3 or 4?
I mean, because it was in
Final
Indianapolis,
Fours?
so like, what's that? Okay, but yeah, I
How
know,
about
they don't-
Indianapolis for the hockey thing?
Well,
How come they never been?
They have ice there?
They could have ice there.
Might be back in Cincinnati revisited. We better be careful.
No,
No
but what
ice.
I was hearing the most, I think, is Salt Lake City and Seattle. Because those are the two
Okay.
most
Yeah,
recent
yeah, that's right.
Yep.
NHL.
To the NHL buildings,
Again, they
yep.
have to want it, but I've heard that
But
Seattle
I think
does.
the way
Seattle,
Seattle's
yeah.
promoting
Yeah.
the game, I think they might be
Yeah.
interested. Yeah.
Yeah, so
Pearl Jam theme for Seattle, Adam.
We
would be
all
What
heard
gorgeous.
about L.A. with downtown with the little bit of
LA has gotten
malls?
better
Yeah.
with the way that because I was there for the draft last year.
And all those shops and restaurants.
There's
and
stuff there now.
hotels
It
close.
wasn't always like that.
The
Like,
Right, no,
Old
no, I
Forum
know.
was in the middle of nowhere.
Right, exactly.
Still is.
Yeah,
for
well,
concerts.
it's still there, right?
Still in
Yeah.
Inglewood.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they got the Staples Center, and then there's the other venue that's right next to it where they
Yeah.
have the Academy Awards.
Yeah,
I think,
exactly.
or it's going to be where the Academy.
They got
like
a
the
contract.
Grammys are there and stuff. So yeah, no, I wouldn't mind LA. It's just that to me it almost seems like, well, Vegas, LA, like one or the other. I have to pick.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm picking Vegas, but yeah,
One
I wouldn't
glitz.
mind it. I wouldn't mind it, but anyway. Let's get to this game here. By the
Adam,
way,
before that,
Yeah.
I have to say something because this is a full circle kind of moment in terms of the teams that are here. You always ask how many Frozen Fours are. All right, so this is my 33rd Frozen Four. My first Frozen Four was 1972, the 3-year run at the Garden. 72, 3, and 4.
Yeah.
So, 11-year-old Bernie
Ah.
witnessed my very first Frozen Four game because it was Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Was BU Wisconsin at the Boston Garden. The next night was Cornell Denver.
Yeah, yeah.
And it was an all-East final with BU.
Yeah.
And to this day, people that are old enough to remember say that the crowd in the old Boston Garden for that BU Cornell NCAA championship game rivaled a crowd of any event. Bruins, Celtics. They always used to say the ushers that I knew there when they were in the aisles.
Yeah.
People were up and down
No kidding.
in the aisles all the way to the balcony that night.
But that's the way the old Boston Garden ECAC tournaments were, too. I mean,
Absolutely.
I've seen pictures of them hanging out the rafters.
Yep.
Crowds are not as rabid these days anywhere.
No.
I was watching I had Carrie Eads on here the other day.
Yeah,
We were talking
yeah.
about Wisconsin, North Dakota. And I watched those old videos of the 82 championship and the water bottle game and all that jazz.
Mm-hmm.
And the Dane County Coliseum was like 12,000 people hanging over the board. And
Oh, yeah.
the band is going, and the
Crazy.
brawl was happening, and the band
Brawl
was
was-
playing.
yeah.
I mean, it was hilarious.
Wait.
It just...
Wait.
It isn't that rabid anymore. I don't know
You're
why.
right. It
but-
isn't. Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I don't know. We're just old men. But quickly on the game, because
Yep.
I actually have a guest here from the Las Vegas paper coming on. But what do you think, Wisconsin, Denver? If you had to sum this one up, we could have talked more about it, but we'll have to spend only a minute on this now. But amazing the way Wisconsin has turned their season back around. They're just at the right time. But Denver's a machine, so I don't know what's
Yeah.
going to happen here.
You want me to start?
Yeah.
Point, counterpoint here.
Yeah.
60 minutes. Wisconsin, I think, has given us every indication that they can do this once more. I mean, in terms of what they've been doing. I don't have any doubt with what they did and how they got to the game and how well they managed that game against North Dakota. So I think that absolutely is viable. It could happen. But on the other side, as I said, death taxes. David Carl, death taxes in Denver right now. I mean, the way that they have elevated themselves, the way that they're just plug and play with year to year now, the legend that grows of this goaltender who's, as you said, probably 5'8", if 5'8". I just think it's a really tough time betting against Denver in this game.
And just to tee you up on that, Neil, David Carl, if he wins, would be only the second coach in the last 60 years to win 3 out of 5.
Right.
The other one was Jerry York last decade.
Yeah, I know.
Herb Brooks won 3 out of 6.
Exactly.
So,
yeah.
I mean, he would beat, which is amazing. He's 35 years old,
I know.
by the way. So.
And if Denver does it, they can officially be considered a dynasty. A dynasty in college hockey. If they win this thing, again, and you're like, how does Denver keep doing it?
Yeah.
And so they've won what? It'll be 3 for Carl.
This would be 3.
1 for Monty.
He was
and 2 for George.
Yes, 2 for George.
So that's what, 6?
6 in the last 20 years.
Since Michigan's won back in 1998.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
It is amazing. I mean,
since Josh Langfield.
Yeah,
your buddy, your hero
every year. He is his hero. Well, thank you guys. I appreciate it. We didn't get as much into the game, but I love hearing the old stories. And sorry to call you guys old, but, it is what it is.
We are.
I'm old now, too. So.
Father time. I saw Herb Brooks' first one in 74 at the Garden.
Yeah.
They beat BU in the semi, and then they beat Michigan Tech in the final.
3 years in a row at the Garden. That was like your glory days.
It was. 11, 12, and 13.
My first was Wisconsin.
My formative years.
Michigan, 1977. And that's when they really...
That was the Olympia.
No, that was Olympia.
Right.
That's when the NCAA said, we like bigger buildings because we had like 11, 12, 13,000. And Ted Lindsay, the general manager of the Red Wings, was going down, and we're waiting to get in. He was next to former SI writer that covered
E.M. Swift.
E.M. Swift. No, or is that who you meant?
The baseball guy.
Peter Gammons was there. Peter Gammons was covering BU.
SI, and basically Ted Lindsay said it was the Red Wings dressing room. He goes, that's the best team that's been in that dressing room all year and for the last several years.
Yeah, right, for sure.
The bad
Well, Ned Harkness was running the Red Wings, by the way.
Not for
I
long.
think he had left by then.
He left by then, yeah.
But thank you guys. I appreciate it.
When he told Gordie Howe he had bed check, it was all over.
Yeah, right. Neil Koepke
Adam, thank you.
and Bernie Corbett. Again, Neil, formerly of the Lansing State Journal, and Bernie Corbett, of course, the voice of BU for many years. And we're going to bring in our next guest here in just a second. It's going to be from David Shane from the Las Vegas newspaper. And... bring them over right now. But I could talk about the old stories all day long, as you guys probably know if you've read any of my articles talking about the history or listened to this podcast over the years. It's something I love to do. So, but let me bring our next guest in now, as I got to make sure I got everything going on straight here technically. I think you're on 4 or 3. It should be a little hello to us. Give a little hello. There you
check or anything?
There you go.
You go. Right on.
Is it Shane?
It is Shane.
Yeah, David Shane of the Las Vegas Review-Journal. I was just talking to 2 guys who have covered college hockey for a combined 85 years or so.
Okay.
I imagine you probably have not covered much college hockey.
Okay. So... am I allowed to actually admit that I am a Wisconsin grad?
Oh, okay.
And did cover college hockey.
That.
Yeah. So I do actually have a little experience with this. I was in the mid-'90s. So I got there. I can tell a college hockey story. I got there.
That's great.
First year, Wisconsin. The best player I remember was Max Williams.
Uh-huh.
They played Michigan in the Elite Eight at Dane County Coliseum. That was the Michigan team with like Turco, Jason Botterill, Brendan Morrison. Right before I think a couple years later, they ended up getting over the hump and winning the title.
Right.
And so that place was rocking. That was not my first introduction to it, but definitely my, kind of whoa moment for college hockey.
So you were for the student paper at Wisconsin?
Yeah, and then actually for the Wisconsin State
you
Journal.
were with State Journal. Okay, gotcha.
So
Andy Baggett. And,
yes.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, way back, it's almost 30 years ago, but Bill Brophy and the whole
That's right about when I was coming in because I graduated college in '92, and an Eastern guy was broadcaster for Princeton, Cornell, and that was sort of all
Sure.
my teams. But then I started doing, when the internet became a thing, I started doing this stuff online, for the websites that started. And so I actually went to my first Frozen Four in '97 in Milwaukee.
Okay, so was that North Dakota?
Yes. North Dakota,
so that's the only other one that I've been to other than this one.
Yeah.
I was actually at that one as well.
Yeah,
yes.
yeah, and Wisconsin wasn't in it, but it was in Milwaukee, so that was my first taste of the Frozen Four, which I thought was awesome. I just because Michigan was in it and the band and the new, and it was just like the pageantry of it. So that's what I love about it, and I'm hoping that that doesn't go away now that so much money is coming into things. You don't want that flavor to be gone.
It is the cool thing to just, like where we are for this, is to just sit and kind of watch everybody walk by and all the jerseys and the kind of the representation and the different colors and the pageantry and everything like that. To me, that's always what makes this event cool, is everybody kind of repping their, their school or their team.
That is the beauty of it, and I'd imagine coming down, because once Wisconsin won on Thursday, I mean it's very typical for some fans to kind of flock in and buy the tickets from the people who are leaving on Thursday. So I'd imagine a lot of that. I mean, just kind of anecdotally, I'm hearing a lot of Wisconsin fans are out there right now, kind of piling in. So
I can anecdotally say I have a friend who flew out for this. So but it's also cool to see a lot of North Dakota fans here. Obviously, I'm curious to see what the noise is going to be like in terms of are the North Dakota fans going to root for Denver or against Denver with the NCHC connection? I don't know how that's going to work.
That is an age-old debate.
Yeah.
Like, do we root for the team from our conference or do we hate them because they're in our conference?
I can't imagine North Dakota rooting for Wisconsin. So, I don't know.
I don't know. I think most people want the Big Ten to lose because they've been winning everything else. But then again, Denver keeps winning every year. So it's almost like, both teams can lose.
And Big Ten doesn't have one for hockey, I guess, technically.
No, that is true. Which is ironic given all that's been going on. This might be the year, though. I mean, how long have you been out in Vegas then?
So actually for a while now, 18 years.
Wow.
I was the Golden Knights writer for a handful of years and do some other stuff now. So they asked me to do this and I jumped on it. Yeah. So certainly.
Well,
I was probably going to be out here as a fan anyway, so it was kind of cool to actually be out here and cover it and see it all.
But that's why I wanted to have you on because, if you were there 18 years, you were there before the Knights were even there.
Yeah, for sure.
So you've seen from the get-go, because, remember, for the longest time, you can't put a team in Vegas. I mean, it can't be around gambling and all that. And then so the NHL broke the mold, essentially. And obviously now gambling is like everywhere, so it doesn't even matter anymore. But you may have an NBA team soon. Just talk about what you've seen in that span. It's just for sports in this city.
The best example that I can give, and it's a little bit of kind of like the sausage being made from a journalism standpoint and kind of newspapers. When I first started here, I would come in on a Saturday, and the biggest thing, no matter what, would be UNLV basketball.
Right.
That was always our main story. The main, photo on the front page, that seemed to be kind of what everybody cared about. And even back then, so when I first got here was 2008, and they were good.
Well after the heyday of UNLV
but exactly
basketball.
After the heyday. And it was still, that was the story, that was all anybody cared about. And now, I mean, we barely, you could barely find UNLV basketball on a front page now. It's definitely changed. The city's definitely grown up. It's been very interesting to see the fan base and kind of as people have latched onto the Golden Knights. I think a lot of it had to do with kind of the NHL versus, like when the Raiders came, a lot of people already had a built-in NFL allegiance from family or wherever they were from.
I think that was always my concern when the Knights first came, it's just going to be every visiting team's fans every game. But they were good so quickly, I guess. It's probably a chicken and the egg thing too, right? I mean, you tell me. But the population of Vegas was growing, I guess probably before the Knights even, but I'm sure it's just it seems like people will live here now. That was almost never in the mindset as much.
Yeah,
like 30 years ago.
Right, and it's that whole notion of everybody just thinks of Vegas as a strip, and then when you get out of into the outlying areas, whether it's Henderson, whether it's kind of the Summerlin area and those types of things, and you see it's very suburban. It's like being anywhere else,
right.
Except
what spurred that? Like, was there a trigger for that, or was it just a gradual evolution?
There was, I think, a gradual evolution, and there was a boom kind of in the 2000s, a population boom. There's a lot of folks that moved from California. There's tax benefits and all the things like that come with it. Right. It was always kind of a retirement community, and I think, as it started to grow and people, the infrastructure and commerce and other things outside of gambling started to grow, and people had other jobs, and I think that affected it. Or impacted it positively. To go back to the hockey, I think people were starved to have a team, just something to root for here. The only thing was UNLV. Right. A lot of people didn't go to UNLV. Right. And so to be able to start fresh with the Golden Knights and not necessarily have an NHL allegiance, to pick it up from the start. They were an expansion team. They didn't come from somewhere else with any kind of history or baggage, anything like that. Yeah. I think that was appealing to a lot of people here.
Yeah, I'm curious. I mean, they embraced the Raiders the same way. I mean, the Raiders have been terrible. So I'm just curious if, they got a big, giant stadium over there. I haven't been in it, but I can see from the outside, it's this black behemoth there.
We call it, what's it, the Roomba? Those like the vacuum things that go around the room, on its own.
Right. Have they embraced them the same way, or is
no?
That,
They're finally starting to, and I think that's because the Raiders have done a good job in the community starting to get out. But no, from the start, I don't think there was that same connection, and I think it goes back to people kind of have more of an NFL allegiance. It's built into American society, I think, a little bit more than hockey and the NHL. That's a little more regional. Right. If you come from Detroit, Chicago, back east, Boston, then you have an NHL allegiance. But I think there are a lot of people here didn't. And so it was much easier from the hockey side. I think people are starting to turn a little bit toward the Raiders and things, maybe with Fernando Mendoza, maybe kind of starting over a little bit, that'll help. But it was there's a big difference between the Raiders and the Golden Knights in terms of the fan base and in terms of
and
how
plus,
Vegas has received them.
I was going to say, plus with football, I mean, it's one game every other week or whatever, and a lot of people can make that their destination vacation from out of town.
From a visiting standpoint. And here's the other thing, too, sorry to interrupt. Bill Foley, the Golden Knights owner, has basically put his foot down from day one and said, I don't want visiting fans here.
Right.
I can tell a quick anecdote. Golden Knights games in the third period, they do this little fan engagement thing with the, so they'll put something up on the board, cheer, whenever it fits you, women, men, whatever. The loudest cheer always when they say locals.
Really?
Because the place is all local. It's not out-of-town fans. It's very different for Raiders. You get 20,000 Cleveland Browns fans that all come out because they can plan for that Sunday. Yeah, exactly.
No, that's huge. And I like I said, I was skeptical at first, but I'm really happy to see that because I think it's just cool to have another fan base for hockey that is that into it. So I don't know if people knew much about hockey. There were locals beforehand, but they're into it now.
Yeah, so. I was going to say, I don't think they did, but they've definitely learned. I mean, it's a nuanced fan base. You kind of hear when you hear the crowd sort of groan and get angry at certain things, and you kind of go, oh, okay, now they know hockey now. First year wasn't quite like that, but they definitely know the sport now here.
I say that the only downside now to Vegas, the last 20 years, is that I used to be able to come here, park for free, and get now I got to pay $25 a night. And,
that's a whole other story. Yeah,
so they got to be careful.
We could get into that for hours. Yeah,
no, I'm sure, but they do have to be careful. I will say,
we hear that a lot.
Yeah. There's probably a point of diminishing returns on that.
I'm sure there is. I'm sure they have an algorithm and they do all their math and all that. I know from a not to get into this too much. From a sportsbook standpoint, though, that's definitely something that you hear and see now. It's definitely changed in terms of the bets and what they'll take, and you hear a lot more people saying they're cut off and all of that sort of thing. And it's definitely changed a little more of the gouging, I guess you could say, people complain about.
A little bit. $9 for a bottle of water, that's all right. But no, I love Vegas. I don't know if I would want to live here. I mean, you live here, so it must be. I'm sure that like you said, suburbs are suburbs everywhere.
Exactly.
But, I love coming here. I got my Sphere tickets for Metallica in November.
Oh, there you go.
I'll be back then. So
that'll be fun.
But I mean, just to wrap this up, I appreciate it. I mean, you probably follow Wisconsin then over the course of the season just as a fan, right?
A little bit.
So I mean, how you feeling about this as a hockey game going into it?
If I was not objective and not working, I would be nervous. I don't think it's the best matchup for Wisconsin. I think I would have preferred to see them play Michigan and maybe, try to frustrate a team like Michigan, take their offensive way. It seems like it's a little more clear game plan that you would have against Michigan, whereas I think Denver is going to present a team that's experienced, a little bigger, more physical, a little deeper, obviously a hot goaltender. So, a hot team as well. I mean, 12 in a row that they've won, coming into this. So Denver's got the pedigree. They're the standard in college hockey right now that everybody's shooting for.
I live there now, actually, which has nothing to totally just a coincidence, but it's been fun to watch. But Wisconsin, I mean, they just flipped a switch though in the last 3 games because they were off for 3 weeks. They had gotten blown out at home and everyone wrote them off. So there's something to be said for that too. That whatever that intangible is, where you lightning in a bottle.
Yeah, and I mean, I think we saw that probably in a microcosm against North Dakota. You saw the first period, and then even Mike Hastings talked about it a little bit, kind of hanging on, especially in the second period when he had to call a timeout. I think that's probably Wisconsin's season in a microcosm. They started out so well. I mean, they looked like one of the best teams in the country the first month or two, and then all of a sudden that midseason rut they hit. So I think today it's kind of which team shows up. Are you going to get the early season, the first period against North Dakota, Wisconsin, or are you going to get the the one that showed up against Ohio State?
Well, I appreciate. I'm happy for you that you get to be back in the college hockey family here for a year.
Yeah,
at least,
appreciate
it is a fun, tight knit family. I think here, and you're seeing some of that. So it's not like basketball, where the whole world, 1,000 credentials,
Right.
It's just like the same 40 of us every year.
I was going to say, I saw a couple familiar faces from my old days. It was kind of like, okay.
Yeah, they didn't never go away.
Well, hair's a little different, we're all, but some familiar faces. So appreciate you having me on. It's been awesome. Enjoy it too. Thank you.
All right, David Shane of the Las Vegas Review-Journal. Appreciate you coming on. And we just roll on to our next guest now. So thank you very much. We've got to see who I keep forgetting what the order of events here is. Oh, that's Scott Wheeler. I try to remember who I had next. And we're going to get to Scott Wheeler of The Athletic in just a second here. I'm going to pick up the mic as I type your name in here. Just, pause for time. You're not from the Las Vegas Review-Journal, though, so that's okay. All right, so let me check your mic. Make sure you got you. I think it's that one. There you go. Go ahead.
Hello.
Yep,
hello.
there you go. Scott Wheeler of The Athletic, appreciate it. You got 3 guys here, I think, or at least 2. But I wanted
two in town and one one local.
Right. And so, but I wanted to talk to you because you're the guy that does a lot of the prospect stuff, a lot of the draft rankings. Before we get into some other players, we first have to talk about my favorite topic. We call this Gavin McKenna radio here in college hockey because he's all we talked about all year. It was like the one evergreen topic. And I bring that up just because, you wrote an article basically like a few days before I did critiquing his year at that point and maybe dropping in the rankings. And it ruffled a lot of feathers, as mine did too to some extent. But I guess having seen him now for the second half of the year, where do you have him now? As far as the draft is concerned.
I've had 5 lists out. I do 7 lists in advance of the draft, so I've got 2 more coming out, one after U18 Worlds typically, and another sort of immediately before the scouting combine in June. And Gavin's been number 1 on 4 of my 5 lists here to date.
Right.
And there was my midseason list in January. He was number 2 to Ivar Stenberg. My most recent list, he was back to number 1. Gavin is the most talented player in this class. So despite the criticisms early in the season, I don't want that to be misconstrued. Like, Gavin is Gavin still. The playmaking, the ability on the power play, the vision, that is all very, very, very unique in this class. The challenges that Gavin had, particularly in the front half of the season, were about details, about moving his feet, about getting up and under sticks, about getting into battles, about drifting. All of those things are still concerns, but this season revealed some of the flaws in his game and some of the things that he needed to work on. And it was a talking point really with scouts right into the World Juniors, like from October through December, when I texted with people, when I ran into people in East Lansing, when I did that story, when Penn State was in East Lansing. There were moments over the course of the year where people were pretty down on Gavin and quite critical of Gavin. I think everything sort of balanced out. I joked in the fall, and actually in that piece, that there was going to be a 5-point game around the corner. I wasn't sure whether there was going to be an 8-point game around the corner, but the points were always going to come. The production was going to come. They played him so much at Penn State. Like
and
25,
he shot the puck
26,
more in the
27,
second half.
28 minutes a game, that it was always going to come for him. The question with Gavin is just what is he going to be off the puck? That's what he still has to show people. It's what he's going to have to continue to demonstrate. But on the puck, there has never been any real doubt about Gavin's ability.
Yeah, and it's just like I always look, it's an honest critique. I don't hate the kid. I mean, just an honest critique, right? I think Penn State did him a bit of a disservice by the hype that they had around him, because
it's a lot of pressure for a 17-year-old kid.
It wasn't his fault. I tried to make that crystal clear myself. Like, he wasn't like the second coming, right? Like, college hockey has had number 1 overall picks before. College hockey has had Adam Fantilli, who was 3rd overall. Macklin Celebrini, Jack Eichel, 2nd. They've had those guys. So they made it sound like, this was the guy who was like, oh my God, they're the greatest player of all time. And so I think, when you saw him, and he understandably had flaws for a 17-year-old, that was like, okay, like what do we see? Because I don't watch Major Junior, so I just see him when he comes to college. I'm like, well, what am I see? He's a good player, but so I don't know.
And he's
that's
still
where
going to be, like if we're in Vegas, if I were setting the betting line, Gavin is still going to be the first overall pick. And I think especially so if it's Vancouver or Calgary, if it's one of those Canadian teams, he will be impossible for those teams, I think, to pass up on. So it's not as though he's all of a sudden what happened with Shane Wright, for example, where Shane Wright just didn't live up to the expectations of exceptional status, and Gavin wasn't even an exceptional status player. But then he goes 4th overall to Seattle. This isn't going to be that. Gavin's not going to go 4th overall.
Capo or one of those Ranger guys who were taken high. I mean, you think he'll be better as a pro than that? Yes,
and frankly, I think we're talking about a point per game NHL talent in the prime of his career. Like, I think we're talking about kind of the names that get thrown around are always Kucherov and Panarin. Kucherov is rich because Kucherov is Kucherov, and he's one of the all-time great wingers in the history of the game. But that Panarin, that's kind of what I imagine he will be.
Is there any scenario you could see where he doesn't go number 1 at this point?
I would be a little surprised. There are people who believe that Chase Reed of the Sioux Greyhounds and Ivar Stenberg of Frölunda are in that mix. I don't believe that Keaton Verhoff is any longer in that mix.
That's what I was going to say,
I don't believe that Carson Karls is a realistic first overall pick. Albert Smith, some of these kids.
Yeah.
But it's not out of the question. Depending on who wins the lottery, it's not out of the question that it's Stenberg or Reed. But I think it's still almost certainly going to be Gavin.
And you mentioned Verhoff because he'd been mentioned by some people, and I think that was
that conversation in the fall.
Yeah, but I think he's again a good player, but I didn't see. Like I said, I don't know. I only follow the college guys, so he didn't stand out to me as this guy's going to be number 1. But he's still going to be a good player. What do you see? Where do you think he's going to go, or what are the pluses and minuses in his game that's going to matter on draft day?
Keaton is an interesting player. He's a summer birthday. So he's not just young for college hockey, he's young for this draft class. He has been extremely productive. He has played big roles for Hockey Canada at the Hlinka Gretzky Cup and U18 Worlds. U18 Worlds as an underager and a go-to player on that team. This year came, like with Gavin, though, this year revealed some things he needs to work on. I do wonder, and I've wondered really dating back to U17 Worlds in Sarnia almost 2 years ago now. I've wondered about his boots, and he's a little clumsy over his feet at times, and he's a big kid, and the skating is okay. I don't think it's going to be a major inhibitor for him, but it's just okay. And then the reads on the puck and the decision-making on the puck have been issues at times for him. And so he has to sort through all of that, but he's a 6'3", 6'4" kid, and if you've seen him off the ice, he looks like a man. He looks like a pro already, and he can hammer it, and he's got some skill, and he's been productive. I know things really cooled off for him in the second half here as they geared up for the playoffs. I think they wanted him to sort of prepare for the playoffs and play a bit of a different style and move pucks quicker and hang on to it a little bit less. And I know that those are all things that they worked on throughout this season with him. But it was a work in progress for him late in the year, especially as the games got tougher. And I think we saw it here in the semifinal. Shifts hemmed into his own zone, some icing, some sloppiness, some scrambling. But Keaton he's still going to be a top 5, top 6 pick in this draft.
There's one other name I wanted to ask you about in particular because it kind of plays into this whole thing we're talking about with guys coming out of junior and younger and need to bulk up is Tynan Lawrence, who jumped from middle of the season to BU. And I think that exposed, I think people at the time were like, oh, let's see what he can do. Maybe he's a top 10. And he didn't really do anything for BU. So now what? Yeah,
Tynan's another one where college hockey's hard, right? Like, it is hard. And I think he learned that. He also... I didn't love the decision, frankly. He was banged up early in the fall this year. He wasn't fully healthy. He'd only played about a dozen games in the USHL to start the year. And I think, frankly, he would have been better off staying in Muskegon, trying to win back-to-back Clark Cup titles with them and going about it that way. He also joined a BU team that was not the BU team of the last few years here this year. Everybody on that team had a tough year. It felt like they just weren't the Jay Pandolfo Frozen Four locks that they've been. And
ran its course there.
Yes, and he also, I think, struggled with the size and the physicality of the college game. He's a very hardworking kid. He's strong for 6 feet. He can skate. He can make plays. He's smart. But the battles and getting pushed off of pucks and that part of it revealed itself to be a bit of a challenge. And I don't believe any longer that he's going to be the first center picked at the start of the year. That's the way it was trending. I would expect that Caleb Malhotra of the Brantford Bulldogs, who's actually a BU commit and is going to be playing with Tynan next year, potentially as their top 2-line centers. I think Caleb's probably going to be the first center picked.
But this is where I'm going with this now. So the overall theme here is that, these younger guys who are not as big yet as like Porter Martone was just a man, right? I think if they redrafted last year, he might, go higher. I loved watching him play this year. But like, it's only because we haven't seen Malhotra in college yet. So we have the vision of him in the dominating junior hockey, just like Gavin did or whatever. Like, are we giving them an unfair advantage almost because we haven't seen them yet in college? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, that's part of it. Like, these kids who chose to go the college route, I think it'll probably be better for them in terms of their pro career. Will it be better for them in terms of the NHL draft? That's a different question. But the NHL draft really doesn't matter. And Keaton, I think, benefited from learning in college hockey this year. Now, James Patrick, a North Dakota alum who coaches in Victoria, is an excellent coach, and James Patrick would have done a great job with him and Reshny had they decided to stay in Victoria this year. But that test, I think, is an important test for these top kids now, and we're going to see more and more of it. Ryan Lynn is another top prospect in this year's draft class, has now committed to play for David Carl at Denver next year. We're going to see Carson Karls, I think, once his season in the WHL wraps up, commit. So this is the new normal.
Yeah, right. I'm curious if you haven't, this guy's been drafted already, but last guy before you go, Eric Polkamp. Does he have a chance at 5'11" for the NHL? He's not like Quinn Hughes and Lane Hudson that are small but fast and whatnot, but he's a little different player. Does his type of player have a good shot?
I think he does. Yeah. He's a very unique player, which you're kind of hinting at there. Like, he's 5'11", but if you've ever seen him away out, he's tank is the right word. Yeah. And he can hammer it, and he's got the big point shot, and he's physical, and he's competitive.
And he's not slow.
And you're right. He doesn't have the east-west shake and bake that some of these little water bugs now have. But I don't think that will prevent him from becoming a second power play depth defenseman in the league who can maybe score 10 goals with that shot of his in the league. Like, that's kind of how I envision Polkamp.
He's still a decent skater, right? Just doesn't have the moves necessarily. Yeah. So I was just curious. But last thing before I let you go, and I appreciate it, Scott Wheeler of The Athletic with us, is what's the general mood in Canada, now that all this change has happened? And I think a lot of fans I see it on Twitter a lot. Like, why are these guys going to the NCAA? It's amazing how fast it went from NCAA versus major junior, like a battle, to now the NHL. I think teams are just quickly going like, no, it's like a progression. It's not like one or the other now. And now it's like one to the other.
In Canada, the temperature is... It was hot in the last summer.
Yeah.
Like, there were some bridges burned and some CHL general managers who didn't like the way that some of the college programs went about their business and their recruiting. And I think they're still navigating that.
Although turnabout was fair play. Sorry to interrupt. For many years, the major junior teams used to pluck guys out. So
no, and it's in a better spot now, I think. Yeah. Like, I think everybody has sort of come to terms with what this looks like now. And the smart GMs in junior hockey in Canada made the decision to quickly align themselves and build relationships with not just NCAA coaches and programs so that they get those guys at the front end when they're 15, 16, but also with agencies and building trust that way with some of the players and their agents, and understanding that, look, at 18, 19, or 20, we're likely going to lose you if you're the real deal.
Right.
It's not the end of the world, though, either for junior hockey in Canada, because at the front end, they're getting more kids now, and that's going to grow. And the irony in all of this is that American college hockey is going to get more Canadian, and Canadian junior hockey is going to get more American, right? And you're going to see a flow of kids. We've already seen it with them trying to pull kids from the national program. We saw J.P. Hurlburt playing Kamloops this year.
I don't know. I said earlier this year the U.S. national program might take a hit the other way.
And the Q kids, or the Q teams, I should say, are really going to go after the Boston area kids and that East Coast, and you're already seeing just a counterflow the other way.
Yeah, why not?
But the result is that junior hockey is now going to be the top teams in junior hockey for years and years and years have been built around 20-year-olds. And the teams that win the Memorial Cup and win championships in the OHL and QMJHL and WHL have typically been built around 19 and 20-year-olds. You cannot build your team that way any longer in Canada. Because you can't count that those kids are going to stick around. And so it's getting young. The junior game is going to get younger. It's going to be dominated more by 16 and 17 and maybe some 18-year-old kids that decide to stick around. College is still not for everybody. From an academic standpoint, there's a lot that comes with it. Some kids want to be closer to home. So there will still be top players who stay, but increasingly there's more choice, and that choice is for the benefit of everybody.
For sure. And I wish we were all one big happy family, But I think Porter Martone was like an unbelievable advertisement for the NCAA and what he said. Because the age-old debate, which you still hear today, well, why would anyone want to go to college and play only 34 games when you can play 70 games in junior? And he said everything that every college coach wanted to hear as to why that was beneficial, So I think that debate is almost over. Like, the NHL has enough GMs that used to be college guys and whatever, that where they don't care about that anymore. Like, the games is not the factor. You know what I mean?
Yeah, increasingly guys want to prioritize the experience of college hockey, the challenge of college hockey, the time in the gym that college hockey affords. The facilities are almost impossible for major junior teams to compete with. I've been in that gym at Munn, and I've been in that gym at Wisconsin, and it's pretty impressive, right? North Dakota, you go down the list. So that side of it is... It's just tough for junior hockey. The ownership in junior hockey is millionaires, not billionaires, right? That's always kind of the way that we've talked about it. And it's also a bit of kick in the pants for them, though. Like, major junior owners now are investing in their facilities again, and they're going to their municipalities and their townships and asking about new buildings, and there's all sorts of new rinks planned in the OHL at the moment, and the OHL is looking into expansion into new markets, and I think we might see maybe an American market eventually, although USA Hockey has put up some walls walls around that a little bit. The Q would love to be in Maine and Connecticut. But it's changing, and everybody's sort of figuring it out as we go here.
Well, listen, I appreciate your thoughts. Good to have your perspective. Scott Wheeler, The Athletic. Enjoy the game.
Cheers.
And appreciate you coming on. That was great chat about some of the prospects in college hockey, and obviously just sort of the atmosphere and the philosophy of what's going on right now as we close in on Denver and Wisconsin at 40 minutes from now or 45 minutes from now, and we will have on our next guest here in just a second. Mark, I don't know, he's still wandering around here with Mark. Poor Mark Diver without a home, just wandering around. And we'll have on Kedrick Stumbris from Badger Breakaway and Nick Tremoroli from Let's Go DU here in just a second. Waiting for your cohort or your opposite to show up. We can't give unequal time to but Wisconsin and DU coming up here in a few. We'll break down the game with those two guys. But that's a great chat with Scott Wheeler, and again, all Gavin McKenna radio all the time. I do think it's a fascinating conversation, and I do think that it's really not picking on him. I mean, because like you said, there was a bunch of other players we talked about. I think it's an interesting dynamic of like the guys who come down from Major Junior and whatnot, like maybe struggling a little bit at first, but that's the whole reason why they did it, to play against older, bigger, stronger players and see how they do. And it might not look great at first for some of them, and obviously it's all relative. I mean, McKenna did score 51 points. I mean, Tynan Lawrence was nowhere near that level. But it's all relative. I mean, struggled relative to maybe what people thought. And it's only going to be better for those players, for sure, in the long run. I do think it's interesting to see, because a guy like Malhotra is going to get drafted before he plays in college hockey, and then we're going to see him play college hockey and see what happens. So, again, I don't watch Major Junior, so I don't know exactly what, how he's been doing so far, other than I know that he's a big-time pick, and he's going to BU. So, Manny Malhotra's son, for those who don't know, played in the NHL. So anyway, that's a good chat again with Scott Wheeler of The Athletic. We appreciate it. These games coming up, I just wanted to talk a bit about the games we just saw the other day, because we didn't really recap them very much here in this show, but before we get to previewing the next game. But, North Dakota versus Wisconsin, I think the way that Wisconsin just kind of rolled over North Dakota for 2 periods at least was a bit of a surprise to me. But Wisconsin keeps surprising. I mean, it's interesting when you watch Wisconsin at this NCAA tournament so far, and especially on Thursday, it just looked like quintessential Mike Hastings team. But then you wonder, like, but just 3 weeks ago they lost 7-1 at home in a playoff game. I mean, what happened to the Mike Hastings formula then? So it's kind of weird that it's happened like that. But I think maybe in retrospect, the fact that they had lost a couple big time defenders and taking them a while to adjust. I mean, you maybe would have thought they would have adjusted by the time of the Big Ten playoffs, but that didn't happen. But they had, there's always that catch-22 as far as whether you want the rest or whether that's going to, the rest or rust debate, and it can go either way. And I'm not sure there's a rhyme or reason to it, or if it's just coincidence. But in this case, 3 weeks off, whatever it was, close to that for Mike Hastings to whip his team back into shape and get them back on the right page has certainly worked. And that was to a T, really, on Thursday. So, I mean, coming into this tournament, I was skeptical of Wisconsin, especially because, again, their goaltending. Daniel Hauser hadn't been great, but, again, the defense wasn't great. And then, Hauser, again, picked it back up in the NCAA tournament all of a sudden. And then, now he's on par. He's been playing on par as well as anybody else. I mean, but, again, it's only 4 games you have to win, right? You only have to be good for 2 weeks. If you catch lightning in a bottle, I mean, there's a lot of teams that are good for 2 weeks and then don't have great years. I mean, how many times during the course of the year do we have a team of the week for College Hockey News, and then the next week they get swept, So those things happen, but you only have to be good for 2 weeks. But you give Wisconsin a little opening here, and now they only have to be quintessential Mike Hastings, Wisconsin, for one more game. So I'm not going to bet against them. And, again, they just have to be in that tip-top shape for one more game. And It would not surprise me at all if that was the case. So as for Denver, though, against Michigan, I mean, the shots in that game were 52-26, and it didn't feel that way to me that Michigan had that many more shots. I guess, I mean, certainly they did have more opportunities, but I never felt like it was that lopsided. So, you know, I think Denver is just Denver, and they find a way. I will say that this is different to me as from a Michigan standpoint, to make, you know, their fans feel better, I suppose. It's the fourth time in the last 5 years they lost in the Frozen Four semifinal, and so they haven't reached a championship game even in a while. But the other years were different. You know, the goaltending maybe wasn't there, the discipline wasn't there, a lot of first-rounders that were so talented, maybe not all on the same page. This year's team was absolutely legit. And if those other 3 years hadn't happened, you wouldn't really be even questioning this year. This is just, you know, a great Michigan team start to finish, top to bottom. And they ran into a hot goalie, and that's hockey. You know, a bounce goes this way, that way. I thought they played a great game. They played a great game. You know, like I said, I looked at some other Frozen Four semifinals they lost, and they weren't their best game. And this time I think it was. And they just lost to a team that finds a way. So I don't know if that makes Michigan fans feel any better, but onward Denver goes. The legend continues for DU hockey. So I have enough filler-bustering for me. Your Wisconsin compadre or counterpart, as we should say, not here yet. So you're going to get to dominate the first 5 minutes of this conversation. Nick Tramaroli, go do what you got to do there first. Let's go DU. I got to make sure you're on this one, I think. Right?
This one right here?
There you go.
All right.
So Kedrick can join us later, but there he is. I was going to say, you can talk trash about Wisconsin until Kedrick shows up, but
we can do whatever we want behind his back, right?
But good to see you finally.
Yeah.
The last, I think we had you on in 22.
Yes, 2022, that sounds right, yes.
But you weren't here in 24 or last year for that matter.
Correct.
So welcome back, as they say.
Yes, good to be here.
But are you just really cocky at this point because of how much Denver just keeps winning every year, or what?
Every year is a new one. You know, we're so used to traveling to these things and, you know, going through the process, getting used to every new arena. The travel is the part that you get used to. But honestly, going to the Frozen Four, seeing DU at the Frozen Four, it never gets old. I've been telling everybody, you know, as you know, I'm a CPA, and so this weekend is not a good weekend for me to be traveling, but I have my own personal rule that if Denver's in the Frozen Four, I can't miss it.
I wouldn't know what that feels like at all. I have 4 teams in my favorite pro sports that haven't won anything in 40 years. So,
well, what's loyalty?
I'm loyal, if nothing else. I'm an idiot, but loyal. So, but anyway, before I get to Wisconsin, your thoughts on, I was just saying about the game the other day, 52-26 shots. Yeah, Michigan had the better play. It didn't feel that lopsided to me, though. I don't know about you, but
no. I said in my recap that was a game that Denver is very comfortable playing, and you know, yes, the stat sheet looked very lopsided, but Denver is built to withstand that type of barrage this time of year. Yes, they got great goaltending from Johnny Hicks. That's imperative this time of year, no matter what team you are. But by the same token, you know, you watch how they did in 2022 against Mike Hastings, and I'm sure we'll get into that. But they're very comfortable defending in their own zone. You know, I thought that was very reminiscent of the game against Western Michigan, quite frankly. Even though it was a 6-2 game in favor of Denver, I thought they did a really, really good job of just comfortably keeping everything with Western Michigan to the outside, and they were comfortable with Western Michigan attacking. And I think that's why they looked so comfortable, and why 52-26 on Thursday, that's why it didn't feel like that, because Denver looked so comfortable doing it.
You guys talk amongst yourselves while I fix the who's on here. But so bring in Kedrick to discuss Wisconsin's game the other day. Or really just in general, because we talked about it the other day with you about how Wisconsin's turned things around. But then, like, they took it to, like, an even another level, I thought, in the semifinal, because that was textbook Mike Hastings right there from start to finish. And, you don't have the pleasure of having seen him at Minnesota State, but we were just referencing that 2022 game where it was textbook Mike Hastings for about 42 minutes in that national championship game until it wasn't anymore. But there's no reason, if you told me going in that Wisconsin was going to win the national championship, I would have thought you were crazy. But now if you told me today, given what I've seen, it's like, okay, you only have to be good again for 2 weeks. So here we are, Here
we are. Thanks for bringing me on again, guys. Yeah. Appreciate it. It was a classic Mike Hastings game, but not a classic this Wisconsin Badgers hockey team game by any means. I was looking before and then after the game. Wisconsin all year had only won one game, scoring 3 or fewer goals. They made their money in games where they had to score four or more, frankly. That was the first game they won with 2 goals since before Thanksgiving all year. They're 2-9-1 in games scoring 2 or fewer. That's, I think, like you mentioned, you don't expect coming into this weekend to think Wisconsin can win the national championship, and I kind of thought the same thing because I'd only really seen them win games mostly one way, by outscoring people. And Thursday night was the first time we've really seen kind of all season that they can beat teams defensively. And that's what they did. Granted, they put a lot of pressure on North Dakota. They outshot North Dakota by a lot. They didn't turn off that pressure in the third period. They were out shooting North Dakota 12-3 before they pulled Jan Spunar. That's about as complete a performance you're going to see from Wisconsin. And they should have a lot of confidence coming into today.
Yeah, I was going to say, you're having bad flashbacks to 22, but then again, that the way it ended, you're fine with that. If this game goes 1-0 for 2 periods, you got plenty of confidence.
The difference was it was a 2-0 game, not a 1-0 game. One goal. That was the thing in 2022 was one goal got Denver back in the game, and it completely flipped everything on its head. And the lights all of a sudden got really, really bright for that Minnesota State team, and Denver was built for that moment. At that point, they're like, okay, I guess we just have to.
Would they have shots with 2 periods that game, like 9 or something?
It was under 10. I remember standing there in the press box going, "This is not the Denver team I've been watching all year. What is happening?"
We were all like, "There is." I mean, it's 1-0, but it might as well be 8-0 because there's no way they're getting. And then boom.
And it was the nothing goal from Ryan Barrow that just snuck through, and all of a sudden, game over.
Yeah,
truly.
So there's your nightmare to look forward to, but. But Daniel Hauser, obviously, he comes in the tournament with an 8.99. That kind of sticks out as really? Can you win with that? I don't remember the last goal you won with a below 900. Minnesota had some guys that weren't top notch in the early 2000s that won it, but they were not that low. But then, but was it all him? I know that, but the defense, it's never just the goalie, right? But how much of it you think was him, kind of struggling? And the defense after losing Hensler and the other injuries?
I think certainly those injuries played a part, but also kind of all year, and this is what I think should worry Wisconsin fans coming into today. They sometimes let just too much traffic in front of the net. Guys struggle to box folks out some of the time. I thought you saw Wisconsin do a much better job of that last night, especially. But that's, I think, been the big difference. There was in that January stretch when they had guys out of the lineup and they were struggling the most at 5-on-5. They've struggled all year. And that point in time, they had struggled matching guys in transition, and that's kind of been cleaned up as the injuries have gone out the window. Now, Logan Hensler still out, Zach Schultz still out. But that was an improved defensive effort in front of Hauser. And I think a lot of Hauser's, quote-unquote, worst performances have come because of the defense in front of him in a lot of cases. And he's done everything you could ask of him most of the year in just giving that team a chance.
The combined height of the 2 goalies might be the smallest since 1985 or something like that.
If it's not, it will be close.
Yeah, what are the 5? And Johnny Hicks is not 5'10", by the way.
No, he's not. He's 5'10" on skates.
But I stood next to Hauser the other day. I think he's a legit 5'11" because I'm 5'10". Yeah. I also stood next to Hicks, and he was shorter than me. So, but the combined height, if you did the math, was probably someone's got to get on that. Dave Fisher's got to get on that.
Yeah, you'd think we would have been told that the other night.
Dave Fisher, the guy who runs the press room downstairs, always has these facts and figures. I'm going to challenge him to come up with that one. It used to be, though, the goal. You look at back when they were showing the Mike Richter Award video last night. You see him in the net, and the post is above his head when he's crouching. It's a lot different story, but But anyway, have you guys seen each other's team during the, or has this been it? How much do you pay attention?
Thursday was the first time I saw Wisconsin, and I was impressed at what they did against North Dakota. Now, I was talking to Anthony here before we got on, and he did make a good point that I think Wisconsin did to North Dakota something that they were not prepared to adjust to. And it was that 2022 game that, it was the 2022 Mike Hastings approach that you get up by 2, you defend. And that's Mike Hastings, and it works. And I think North Dakota was not prepared to get punched in the mouth the way they were, and they couldn't adjust. Lights got too bright, whatever it was. And so I think there was an element of North Dakota's inability to adjust. But by the same token, when you show a team that something they're not used to seeing, that's a valuable thing this time of year. And so, to me, Hauser was great. I thought he was especially there in the third period. He was fantastic on Thursday. But, to what I said earlier, this is going to be the first time I've seen them in person. So, see Wisconsin in person. So.
Yeah, what's your impression? I don't know how much you've seen Denver during the year, but
look, you watched the first half of the season, and I didn't think I was going to have to watch a ton of Denver, right? It wasn't until the very end of the stretch where I started paying a little bit of attention. Last night was the most I've seen them, combined to the rest of the year. So, but that was about as classic a Denver game I kind of expect from this group. There was nothing totally surprising there. They're going to lean defensively. I think if I was surprised by one thing, just seeing Evan Polkamp up close in person, matches everything you think he is. Just incredible.
The funny thing about that is that I've been saying for a few weeks now that he's not the Polkamp from earlier on. I think he was banged up, but I think he's fine now. But what Michigan did to him was just up in his grill the whole game. And David Carl likes to say that it's easier to game plan for when your best player is a defenseman than it is when your best player is a forward, because you got the line mates and so on and so forth. So it is an interesting point there, but I noticed when Polkamp, because he's such an amazing personality, and I'm going all on tangents here, but I saw David Carl cringe a little bit yesterday at the Hobie ceremony when they kept asking him about his offensive prowess, because middle of the year they asked him to dial it back and focus more. Not that he was ever a bad defender, but just, we don't need you to score all the time here. There's other guys picking it up now, because I think he felt like they don't have the Bobby Brinks of the world. He has to do something. But guys like Epperson, Burrow, they were coming along. We need you to play some defense. So his numbers went down, but I also noticed that he gets a little frustrated when he's not in the action. He wants it so bad.
Yeah, and I think David Carl said earlier this year that he looked at it from a perspective of not only what's best for the team, but also, from Eric's specific development, saying, yes, your shot is going to get you to the NHL, but what you do defensively will keep you there. And I think he said that 3 or 4 times this year. And that's how he couched it with Eric. But the other thing was Denver has Boston Buckberger on defense as well. Eric doesn't have to be that number one guy all the time, every night. And truthfully, to your point about Wisconsin struggling to keep guys out of the middle, that may be a problem today, because that is Denver's entire identity up front. You don't have any truly high-end, quote, dynamic forwards on the roster, but look at the goals they scored on Thursday, especially Clark Caswell's goal to tie the game. That's a goal that if you can't keep him out of the center, that's going to be out of the net front. That's going to be a problem for Wisconsin today.
And I think that's how I've thought about the game too. Especially, and it's one of those moments where you think styles make fights here. If Wisconsin's going to win, kind of the antithesis of what you're saying from the Denver side, I think Wisconsin's going to have to get out in transition. They're going to have to find ways to create odd man opportunities. How else are people getting past the goaltender?
That's not really
right?
what they do, though, is it?
It can be, right? When you have that high-flying line, it is not all the time. No, certainly is not. But you can have a guy like Quinn Finley who can go out and take a puck and run. You have a guy like Christian Fitzgerald who can do that from time to time. On Thursday, the goals they scored, not on-man rushes from one end of the ice to the other necessarily, but the first goal is Botterill getting the puck at center ice and just go. The second one is a turnover, or I have those flipped in my head, sorry. But the first one is a turnover forced by Zelenov. You have Tassi all in, all alone at the point, and then off you go. It's something like that I think they're going to have to do, where they get in just by themselves, and that's the goals they score, and when you have to beat a goaltender who has not yet lost a game.
I'm going to throw out some meaningless statistics here. Is that Mike Hastings has never beaten David Carl, since they've only faced each other 3 times, 2 of which were last year in the regular season. And Denver won all 3 games, including that national championship. However, Denver has never beaten Wisconsin in an NCAA tournament game. So going back to the 72 consolation game, we were just talking to Bernie Corbett about the 72 championship game. And the 73 national final, which Wisconsin won. That was Badger Bob Johnson's first championship.
And which was later vacated by the NCAA for Denver, which is extremely ironic these days.
Yes, exactly. I know, that is a sore spot in Denver history. But what was that reason again?
Oh, because they had Canadian major juniors on their roster.
Right. That is ironic these days. There's a lot of things that would have been different, But then the other time was the 2008, I think, first round. So, again, these things probably mean absolutely nothing. But there you go. Here's another stat that may or may not mean something, though. David Carl would become tied with one other guy in the last 60 years to win 3 out of 5 national championships. It's only happened one other time in 60 years because Murray Armstrong did it in the early 60s, 3 out of 4. Herb Brooks, 3 out of 6. Okay? So the other one was Jerry York.
That's who I was going to guess.
Who was about twice his age when that happened. I hate to keep bringing up the age, but it is amazing. 35 years old, he could become just absolutely legendary.
It certainly helps when you start your coaching career at age 19.
Yeah, exactly. But so there you go. Mike Hastings is looking for number 1, but he's been close. But what do you think as far as you mentioned the forwards? Finley. Last year, it felt like he had to do everything as kind of a one-line team. Mike Hastings tried to change that this year, but it is, still a little bit top-heavy with who scores the goals. But have they gotten more balance?
It is a little bit. Their last 11 goals have come from 8 different goal scorers in the tournament, so it's been a well-rounded effort for them. Ryan Botterill is not a guy you're going to count on to score a ton of goals, and he has a big one the other night. And I think the Finley of it all, you're right. Hastings has asked him to be a more rounded-out player. Finley himself asked for that. That's why you see him on the PK this year. Finley asked for those minutes over last summer, and that's why he's shouldering kind of the same amount of the load, but all a more well-rounded load this year, which I think has been good for them as a team. But I think they're going to have to find a way to make that top line score a couple of goals here. There's been a stat going into the NCAA tournament where Wisconsin had won all 13 games in which Quinn Finley scored a goal this year. But some of that was because of the fact that Finley didn't score against a ranked team until after Valentine's Day. So he had struggled against some of these more top-tier opponents, and that has led Wisconsin now to be in the spot where coming into the Frozen Four, he had 5 goals in Wisconsin's last 8 games. So even if they're top-heavy all year, their best players are kind of turning it on at the right time. The rest of the crew is coming along. I don't know who's going to score today. I don't know if anybody's going to score today for Wisconsin, frankly. Yeah. But it'll be a great thing to see kind of whoever does it, because it can come from anywhere.
Well, Denver has certainly done that more so, I think, over the course of the year. And I think what's been most interesting lately is the freshmen, Caswell, Jazowski, Epperson. It's just been almost like classic Denver to see how they've, because that's been their formula, that they had balance in the classes and then they can bring these freshmen along slowly and then boom, by this time, they're a juggernaut, right? 15-0, 16-0-1, whatever it is. So
the comparison isn't perfect because obviously in 2022 Denver had Bobby Brink, and there's no comparison. Yeah. But by the same token, that year it was a very, very freshman-heavy team. That yes, Bobby Brink was incredible all year long, but the freshmen really came on as the year kind of progressed, and the freshmen, they figured out how to, again, get to the net front, how to produce the way you have to get to this game. Yeah. and I'm really getting 2022 vibes from this team. And so it's been fascinating to watch the development, especially since January. I've said Denver's turning point was that weekend against St. Cloud State, where they scored 2 in that first game on Friday, and then turtled the rest of the game, lost 4-2. Right. And, I joked in my recap. I said, well, if Denver's not going to finish this game, I'm not going to finish this recap. But the very next night was Johnny Hicks's real debut. Yeah. And, Denver played very well. I don't think it had everything to do with Hicks. That night Denver found their identity, and it's no secret they haven't lost since. So I thought that weekend was the big turning point for this team.
I was going to say, I haven't really even talked about Hicks much because I can't say anything more about the guy. I've been talking about him nonstop for the last 2 months. So,
well, I think you might have asked DC over the week. Is there anything you can say that hasn't already been said? And DC goes, no. Yeah.
So anyway, before I let you go, final score: whoever's closest gets to come back next year. Just so you know. So
I'm going to say Wisconsin gets won by Hicks today, but I said coming into this weekend that if Michigan were to win, there's just no chance I'm picking against Wisconsin if they advance. I've been picking against Wisconsin all tournament. I'm not going to seem like a fool 4 times. Well, then Denver wins, and I'm like, well, what kind of fool would I be to pick against that team in March and April? I'll say Denver wins this one 3-1.
I love the reverse psychology there. I know Nick is never going to pick against his team.
No, why would I pick against the team that may win 3 out of the last 5? No, I've got Denver winning 4-2 with an empty netter. I think it's going to be a really close game.
That's a lot of goals.
It is, but
I'm thinking 1-1 triple overtime right about now.
The big thing to me is Johnny Hicks, as great as he's been, he has given up some goals over the last few games. And when I say some goals, I mean 2.
Right, because you're playing at a higher level now, right?
Exactly,
you're playing Duluth
and as
Michigan.
Opposed to the 0 or 1 that he the 0 or the 2 that he gave up all weekend against Cornell and Western Michigan. But
exactly,
that's what I think.
Well, I've got it written down in my head, so whoever's closest gets to come back. But thank you guys, appreciate it. Enjoy the game, hopefully.
Thanks, Adam. Appreciate it.
Nick Tremaroli from Let's Go DU and Kedrick Stumbris from Badger Breakaway. As we got 15 minutes left here until game time, and there are 2 hours on Thursday, 2 hours today. Just has 15 minutes left. Hopefully a lot of good stuff. We talked a lot more about sort of state of the game stuff on Thursday, and today's been well some of that, of course, the draft and early part of the show, my diatribe on the money situation in college sports right now, but mostly been the game now in the last hour or so that's good to see. And not enough microphones for all you guys, or chairs for that matter, so we'll bring in our crack crew here. You guys, 2 people can share 1 microphone, 2 can share the other. Let's go in order and get your thought. This is like, I feel like a What's My Line panel here. Starting with our freshman, who's a senior in college, Jay McNally. Thoughts?
First year.
I'm going to keep it open-ended. Thoughts?
Thoughts. Wow, loaded question.
That was tough.
I don't know. I feel like it's hard to pick against Denver in this time of year. I just feel like year in, year out, goaltending's always great. Just these teams are built for this time of year. And
don't listen. Don't pay attention to that.
I'm really overwhelmed.
Oh, you got to be on the radio here.
Yeah.
No dead air.
Picture. But
do we know who this guy is, by the way?
No, we don't.
Oh, okay. You're admiring fans. Oh, okay. I thought he was going to keep the picture. All right, go ahead.
But at the same time, these are 2 of the hottest teams in the country, with Denver dating back to January and Wisconsin on this unreal little run. So I don't know. I find it hard to go against Denver at this time of year, so I'm going to go with Denver, but I don't know what everyone else thinks.
Holy smokes, there's 5 of you. I forgot. Thought there's 4. They're multiplying. Yes, Mike McMahon, of course, would be 6, but he's not here. But he's with us in spirit, and he's doing a good job on the socials, keeping up to date here as we go through the show. But Jasvina Shah, I'm going to
Yeah.
Thoughts?
So
Dot.
Death taxes and Denver winning. Unfortunately, as much as I don't want to see Denver win another national championship, because we've seen like 800.
Oh, that's not nice.
That's not nice. It would be nice to get some fresh blood. You know, the Badgers haven't won in 20 years.
I know.
But
It's hard to call them fresh blood when they're blue blood.
I know, but relatively, comparatively right now, I feel like that's what it is. The thing that worries me the most about Wisconsin is goaltending. I think Hauser gives up a lot of juicy rebounds, and I think that's definitely their weakest point. That being said, they're a pretty solid team, and Mike Hastings led teams are always really tough to beat. I'm still scarred. I think from 2 years, they're all probably still scarred from 4 years ago, but I thought they were going to win that game against Denver. So I don't know. I feel like I can't pick against Denver as much as that's my pick. There you go.
Josh Sagan's comment. That was Mike Corbin, by the way, the assistant coach at
Didn't have my own microphone. That was Mike Corbett who just said hi, the assistant coach at Arizona State. His last Frozen Four was 2023 when he was the mastermind of Quinnipiac's, one of the masterminds, Quinnipiac's national championship. So, anyway, Josh, ...
I mean, Johnny Hicks, right? I mean, what a goalie he's proved to be over the last few weeks. I think he's going to be the ultimate difference maker. It's hard to bet against Denver in this environment. As we've talked about many times, probably all year long. But yeah, it's hard to be. But if Wisconsin plays like they did in the first period against the other night, I think they'll be fine. I actually think it could be a really good hockey game. And are we hoping for a couple overtimes tonight? I don't know, but I think Johnny Hicks might end up being the ultimate
to catch. But that's our only thing here. This early start, everyone's got late flights. So triple overtime would mean I don't even know. I don't even want to imagine the horror.
It would be a horror.
All right, who's next?
Anthony, our crack producer over here, has been a tremendous job. Thank you for your service.
My pleasure.
How was the casinos last night?
I don't know what you're talking about. I will say my goal was to leave Vegas with enough money to put my kids live in Teddy through college, and that hasn't happened yet.
No, that's about $500,000.
So yeah, we'll.
Good luck.
Flight's not until midnight, so as long as we don't have multiple overtimes, we still have a chance. But yeah, excited for this one. I think what really surprised me about Wisconsin was I don't think North Dakota expected them to come out as tenacious as they did. I mean, their forecheck was ferocious right off the bat, and once kind of Wisconsin punched North Dakota, they couldn't adjust. And I certainly think if Wisconsin comes out and catches Denver off guard, they have the experience, they have the coaching to figure out how to adjust. I mean, similar, we saw Denver do it against BC last year in the tournament. So I think Jane said it. It's hard to pick against Denver this time of year.
Well, now we'll ask the Denver native over there, Avash Kalra. By the way, this looks like an a cappella group. You got
be careful what you ask for.
5 of you guys standing here with microphones. Yeah. So I know what you're going to say, but say it anyway.
I think that even though it's hard to bet against Denver, if Wisconsin, like Anthony's alluding to, has a similar first period to what they had on Thursday, I think Denver could be in trouble. Eric Polkamp has to find a little bit more space than he found against Michigan as well. I think that if the game goes on and Polkamp can't find the space or they can't get him the puck, Wisconsin could actually sneak this one out. So I think this is going to be closer than people think.
Well, I expect a close game, maybe just because of the way the teams play. But, you mentioned about if they come out the way that what happened Wisconsin, North Dakota. I mean, I was surprised at what happened in North Dakota. I'd be shocked if it happened in Denver just because they have not taken a minute off in like 2 months. I have not seen them lull in a game. They were just on tilt the whole Loveland Regional. And in the NCHC tournament, so that would be shocking, but you never know. All right, well, now we'll go back around the other way, or maybe start with Jane again. What does everyone think of Vegas?
Great. It's my first time here.
And of the Frozen Four. I mean, what do you think?
First
of the
Frozen Four as well.
Yes.
Yeah, it's been awesome. Even just like all around here, seeing all the different jerseys going on. Had a running list in my phone. It's just been super cool, and I think Vegas is a great spot to have this tournament, and I think it bodes well for college hockey in the future. It's just such a destination spot. It's been great.
Hey, look at these. Look, you guys got to come say hi before you start drinking, all right? Because every time I see you. What's up? And this guy right here, he lives in Colorado. I moved there 4 years ago, and he hasn't said hello to me. All right. I'll talk to you in 5 minutes. Derek Scott. Hey, Wisconsin. Well, we're talking about that right now, so you'll have to. All right. All right. You guys are all going out to the world right now. Good to see you. That is my guys I've seen at the Frozen Four every year. I said I moved to freaking Colorado. He lives in Colorado Springs. If we ever need a lawyer on College Hockey News, that's our guy. Believe it or not. Believe it or not. Just make sure we see him before he's had the 4 Budweisers. But all right, let's get back. They're St. Lawrence alums, by the way, so they know they don't like to bring that up anymore. What were you talking about?
I'm done.
Oh, you're done. Okay. I was going to ask you how the Eagles concert was, though.
It was really good.
Okay. That was at the Sphere. Josh, go ahead. What do you think of the Frozen Four in Vegas?
Vegas has been wonderful. They're wonderful hosts. Obviously, the hotels, resorts are really close to the rink, and I think the arena has proved that it's capable of hosting many Frozen Fours over the years, and I think in general, like Las Vegas just has been fantastic host, and yeah, it's a good place for college hockey. It helps build the game a little bit and move us into a new areas, which is good.
Spoken like a hotel manager right there. Jashvina Shah?
Yeah, because the games are so early in the day, there's not enough time to drink and gamble, which is quite unfortunate. I also was last year.
I feel like that was. You should have said that's a good thing, but okay.
I was here 8 years ago last, so I'm much older now, and it's harder for me to walk to everything. But I will say there's nowhere else we're going to get a free Bruno Mars concert. So, hey, I guess that's a plus. Otherwise, it's too hot, and I don't like the desert.
You used to get free parking. I'd rather have that than the free Bruno Mars concert. But nowadays in Vegas, that doesn't happen anymore. All right. Anthony's next. What are your thoughts on Vegas?
It's been great. I mean, I've been here multiple times. Was here last in 2018. I was here for a Knights game, too. So nice to be back in the building. I will take Vegas being in the rotation. I saw your tweet. I know you referenced it earlier. If Vegas is in the rotation every 4 years, I think a lot of us will be happy.
I'm good with that, even though I pay $9 for a bottle of water. But go ahead. What are your thoughts? Avash.
Yeah, no, it's a destination, and I think just like Tampa was, and potentially other cities that they might look at, like the NCAA committee alluded to yesterday in their State of the Game. They're looking at places that where they can generate interest, and maybe in areas where they could develop a Division I program.
It sounds like Salt Lake City and Seattle are.
They alluded to that,
high
right?
on their wish list.
So, Vegas has been great. I probably shouldn't have stayed out as late as I did last night at the poker tables. But, we've seen Bruno Mars. I played poker right next to Brad Garrett yesterday.
Really?
It's been a really fun week here in Vegas.
Well, I mean, now that everyone knows we're all degenerates, it's all right. But
I knew that before that.
Let's go one more time around just with a quick final score. And as I said to Nick earlier, and Kedrick, whoever gets closest gets to come back next year. So be careful with your prediction here as you final score. And by the way, we hope Jane comes back. Is not stolen by Sports Illustrated or something. But go ahead, yeah.
I'm going to go 3-1 Denver. Final score.
I'm writing this down. 3-1 Denver. That's Jane. Josh.
4-3 Wisconsin.
Ooh, that's a lot of goals, man.
Too many goals.
That's a lot of goals.
3-2 Denver overtime.
How many overtimes?
8 overtimes. Y'all are going to miss your flight.
The only one who's leaving Sunday night is the only one who wants overtime. All right.
I may or may not have financial interest in Denver, so that means 2-1 Wisconsin.
Exactly. You know what hedging is, right? Yeah.
I think Jane's on the money here. It's 3-1 Denver tonight.
Oh, the two Cornellians cannot both have the same. That means you both have to come back if it's 3-1 Denver. So, all right. I appreciate it. You stay here, by the way, so I can talk to you after. But, yeah. But everyone else go watch the game. We only have a minute left, so thank you to everyone. Thanks to T-Mobile Arena, NCA for helping us out and getting set up. Thanks to our cast of thousands. Thanks to you for listening. And listen, this is going to be great. We've talked a lot about NIL money and all the other nonsense going on in college hockey these days. At the end of the day, it's still a hockey game, and we enjoy watching it, and that's why we're here. And it's going to be, I think, a great game. It might be tight, tight checking, but, that is still the chess match between two of the best coaches in college hockey today is going to be fascinating to watch. So long here on College Hockey News. We'll check out collegehockeynews.com tonight, tomorrow for all the articles and all throughout the summer for all that's going on here